Hey everyone, welcome to yet another independent surfer review. My name's Jordan and today we're going to be reviewing backside surfing, particularly backside top turns. I haven't been surfing backside a whole hell of a lot lately, but I do have one video from a day back in Indonesia where we were surfing the peak, and it is not necessarily a wave where you do turns. It's mostly just for barrel riding, and we'll do a video on how to get barreled on your backside in the future, but for now we're just going to do a video about how to do a really good backside top turn and how to even make a good backside top turn better. This video is not for beginner surfers. This is mostly for intermediate to advanced surfers. If you're struggling to pop up or anything like that, then this video is not for you. It's just on how to do backside top turns. First and foremost, I always like to compare surfing to a maths equation. With a maths equation, if you don't get the first bit of the equation right, you're never going to get to the answer, and you have to get all those method marks, all those steps in between in order to have the correct outcome, and it's the exact same thing for surfing. As we can see here, I'm starting to paddle in. If you watch this video, you'll notice that I've been paddling for quite a long time, and that's because my position in relation to the wave is far out to sea, and I should be sitting a little bit closer in towards the beach to be able to catch this wave. So even though I realized pretty early that I'm too far to sea, I was able to compensate, move further in to be able to catch a wave further in. So that's really important, just knowing where you are in the lineup. Cool, so paddling in here, popping up behind the peak. So I'm getting up here, I'm getting up behind the peak. Now, in surfing, positioning is key. It's key for everything. What most people find themselves doing is surfing too far to the shoulder because they're worried about getting left behind the power source of the wave. You're going to get the most drive and speed from coming from behind the wave, or coming from the white water and going into the green water. And so in this one, I look down the line as I'm popping up, and then when I pop up, I look to the bottom, which is probably not a good thing. I could have been looking down the line more. So it's always good to pay attention to what's happening in front of you, because that's where you're going to go, right? You're going to go to what's ahead of you and not down at the bottom of the wave. You don't want to end up being stuck at the bottom of the wave. You want to end up going back up to the top. But what I do well here is, as soon as I get to the bottom, I start to engage a rail. I start to get nice and low, stay nice and low and compressed, start to try and touch the water with my right hand. You can see I'm touching the water with my right hand there. And you can see how my left hand, which is my trailing arm, is starting to load up to come across my body. Loading up, rotating, and holding this rotation for a long time. And so if you're not getting that board vertical, or if you're not able to get that pivot, you need to hold the bottom turn for a longer period of time until you've rotated your upper body, chest and shoulders, and translated that into your board, because there'll be a lag time between when your board's going to do that movement and when your upper body has already done that movement. Cool, so coming to this one here, as you can see in this wave, there isn't much of a lip for me to work with. It's just kind of like a crumbly section, a shoulder, and then a little pocket over here that I'm coming up into. Even though it's just kind of crumbly and not so good, I still managed to get up to the top of the wave and get a nice little crack in on the lip. Okay, so we'll watch that again. Getting my nose of my board up and over the foam by putting a little bit more back for pressure, getting that board in, and then finishing the turn. The question we always ask ourselves is like, how can we be better? You know, like, how can we do things better? What to know in order to not make the same mistakes over and over again, or like, what mistakes are we making? So first, what we're going to do is we're going to break down all the things that could go right and could go wrong, and then we're going to add on top of that and see how we can make our backside turns better. The first thing is always having your eye down the line, always paying attention to the section. Make sure that you're not having this slight moment like I'm having, looking down at the front of the wave or looking down at the front of the board. It happens to a lot of people. Instead of looking down the line, looking down at the front of the wave or looking down at the front of your board. And so if you're looking down the line the whole time, you're able to act instead of react. So here, coming around the section, honestly, with this specific part in the bottom turn, it's hard to see how much of my board is in the water because of the water line that's cutting in between. Focusing on the positive points here, making sure that you're nice and low, touching the water. Inverted back knee, engaging the rail. Rotating the head to look to where you want to go next while you're in the bottom turn is really, really important. Some mistakes people do make here, instead of like leaning over, they tend to squash themselves in the hips too much, or they tend to bend down, but only bend down in the knees and not put any weight on the heels, which is not going to allow you to rotate the board. You need to be able to put that board on the rail, and to do that you need to shift the weight onto your heels while rotating your upper body. So that's a good bottom turn, looking where you want to go, which is generally at the top of the wave, making sure you have good rail engagement by leaning on your heels or toes, but this is backside, so leaning on your heels and opening the body up, rotating, looking to the top of the wave to set your next point. So now this transition period between bottom turning and top turning. Now the reason we're going all of this, and I'm sure you're probably really good at doing bottom turns by now, but the reason we're going over this again is because a good bottom turn will equal a good top turn. If your bottom turns are bad, then your top turns are going to be equally, if not worse, as bad, if that makes any sense. I think it does. Anyhow, so this transition period is super important. Here you need to hold your body position until you get to the top of the wave. Now, if you feel like you've lost a lot of speed at the bottom of the wave because you spend too much time there, so just to touch on that, the longer time you spend at the bottom of the wave, the more speed you're going to lose, because there's no like power source there. There's no water drawing up off the reef. There's no water moving you forward. There's no gravity pulling you down when you're dropping down the wave. And so you slow down drastically in this position. And if you slow down too much, then you're not going to be able to make it back up towards the top of the wave with speed. But there is a little trick you can do here. What you can do is you can slightly extend your body, not too much, just slight unweight of the body, and push off the fins to drive up into the lip. But try and avoid spending too much time at the bottom of the wave altogether so that you won't have to compensate. Cool. So in this one, I have got the slight extension. You can see that my left arm is coming all the way across my body, and my shoulders are nice and open, and basically my shoulders are facing and my head is facing directly towards the top of the wave. And this is super important to getting that board to the top of the wave. Back foot versus front foot pressure. Now, during the bottom turn, it's up to you to find what's gonna work. Surfing isn't just about going as fast as you can, it's actually about managing your speed. And so what can also happen in the bottom turn is, like, if you're going too fast, you can easily slide out. And if you're going too slow, you're not going to make it to the top of the wave. If you're going too fast, you might not be able to turn as tight of a turning radius, or large of a turning radius as you could if you had less speed. So it's about managing that speed so that you can do the right turn and the right degree of turn. So for example, like if you have a lot of speed, it's going to be a lot easier to turn 1 degree, but if you want to turn 90 degrees with a lot of speed, you might fall over. So coming up to the top of the wave, in this particular situation, you can see how there's a disconnect between my body and my board. Now, before I even get to the top of the wave, before my board even touches the lip, I've already started rotating back down to the beach. And that's because I want my board to react really quickly at the top of the wave. And basically, this is how I initiate my turn, is by rotating my head, hips, and shoulders, and my board will translate that movement afterwards. So what can I do here to make this turn better? Because I feel like already it's a pretty decent turn. I'm getting up into the critical part of the wave, rotating my body and going back down. But there's always a way that we can make this better. A few things to pay attention to, whether it's on your front side or your back side when you're going up into the top of the wave. When you're going for a snap, it's not about putting as much back foot pressure as you can. It's about distributing the weight where it's needed. So as soon as you go into the turn, while you're going up the wave, a lot of front foot pressure to create drive and speed. Depending if you want to go up and over a foam part of the wave first, you want to be putting a bit of back foot pressure so you can get the nose up and over. But if not, front foot pressure. And as soon as you get to the top, extending that back foot to put back foot pressure for a brief moment of time before going back onto your front foot so that you can push the tail out. If you don't put that pressure back on your front foot again, you'll never be able to drift the fins and drift the tail because you have too much pressure just on the tail, which is going to keep the tail of the board in the water instead of popping out and drifting the fins. As you can see here, what I could have definitely done better is rotated further in this turn and also put more front foot pressure so that when my board got into the top of the wave and into the lip, I could have drifted the fins out more and had more of a slide and would have made this turn much more critical, but I didn't. And so that's something that I need to work on for my next surf session when I go backside, is learning to trust myself and put more pressure onto the front foot when you're doing those nice top turns. And so that's pretty much it for today. I mean, other things that I could do better here is as I'm coming up into the lip, I could be less hunched over and more centered on my body, more bent in the knees. I could also have each hand over each rail as I'm coming for this turn so that it's not so wild. But this is just how I surf. And everybody surfs a little bit differently. Everybody has a different style. The way that you surf might differ, and that's fine. That's more than okay. Okay, so if we go through here one more time, just to double check if we didn't miss anything. Selecting the right place, like again, timing, wave selection, placement, and speed and power. So it's like, it's mostly speed. Having that amount of speed and timing, placement, super important, because if I had tried to do this turn half a meter to either side, it wouldn't have worked. And if I had taken off at the peak or wider than the peak instead of being deeper than the peak, I would have never had that opportunity to come around the section and do that turn. If I was coming from the bowl section, like the bowly area from the pocket into that turn, I wouldn't have been able to do that because this wave doesn't allow you to do that. You need to be coming from behind the section every time. So that's how you're going to get the most critical turns done, from behind the section, staying nice and low in your stance, making sure you have good form of rotating the upper body, leaning into the bottom turn and putting pressure on that heel so that you can really rotate and open up the shoulders and drive into the top of the wave. Front foot pressure at the top of the wave when you're trying to rotate and throw those fins out so that you can get the fins free and kind of slide that board on top of the wave. That's it for today's review. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, please email us at independentsurfer@gmail.com or just leave a question in the comments below and we'll get back to you. And I hope you guys have a great day. Good luck with your surfing. Always strive to be the best and we'll see you next time.